Jacob lived in the heart of New York, in a cramped apartment on the 7th floor, amid endless noise, light, and grey concrete. He was 32. He worked as a designer, lived in a hurry and hadn't thought about home for a long time. But every Christmas, his mother called him. Her voice sounded gentle, but always with the same note of sadness. "Son, when will you come? You forgot how our house smells." He always refused. Work, affairs, the rhythm of the city left no room for memories. But this time, something broke in him. Maybe because of fatigue. Maybe because of the strange feeling of emptiness that had been haunting him lately, when he heard another of his mother's words. "Dad and I missed each other very much," he suddenly answered. "Okay, Mom, I'll come this time." She even fell silent for a few seconds, as if she didn't believe it. Then quietly, with relief, she whispered, "We will wait, son." The road was long, the city was left behind, and fields, snow-covered trees, isolated farms began to appear around the bus, which ran here only twice a week, dropped him off at every pit. Dusk was thickening outside the window. The winter day is short, and already at 5 o'clock, darkness enveloped everything around. When the bus stopped at an old wooden sign that said, "Victoria Glen," Jacob got out, and he was chilled. The air smelled of smoke and frost. He saw the familiar silhouette of a house in the distance, above which a thin stream of smoke rose from the chimney. Mother was standing on the porch with a warm smile, wearing a woolen sweater. "Oh, son, you've really come," she said, hugging him. Father followed, grey-haired, wasted, but he smiled. "They thought you had already forgotten us." Dinner was cozy. Mother prepared a pie with meat. Father poured homemade liqueur. They talked about the past. Then he helped his father chop wood for the stove. The fresh air, the smell of resin, the crack of the axe. All this suddenly brought back childhood memories. Jacob felt a strange warmth that he hadn't felt in years. He came only for a week. I wanted to be in silence, to rest from the city noise. The first night everything was calm. He lay in an old bed, listening to the wind howl in the chimney. But in the middle of the night, he heard footsteps. Someone was walking slowly down the hall. Then, a distant cry, dull and prolonged, somewhere on the street. He listened, but the sound died down. Maybe neighbors, he thought. Here, in the middle of nowhere, there are often sounds that seem strange. The second day passed naturally. He and his father carried firewood, repaired the fence. Mom cooked on the stove, fried meat, tea with mint, warmth, familiarity, peace. But the next night he woke up again. Steps, whisper. Someone walked around the house for hours, quietly, without pauses. Sometimes he heard his mother's voice, as if she was reassuring someone. Then, Tatov, low, deaf, as if praying. He wanted to ask in the morning but forgot. The day was bright, frosty, and everyone looked at him as if nothing had happened. On the third day, he woke up to the smell of burnt bread. I went to the kitchen. My mother was standing by the stove, staring intently at the black pan. There was a single piece of bread on it. It was almost burnt. "Mom," he said quietly. She didn't move. "Mom," he repeated louder. She shuddered and smiled. "Oh, son, I've become quite old." He turned away, suppressing his anxiety, and went outside. Father was standing near the barn, tapping the wall with a hammer, rhythmically, monotonously. "What are you doing, Dad?" He was silent, just kept beating. "Dad?" Jacob repeated. Father slowly turned around, his eyes blank, his lips motionless. Then, without saying anything, he turned back to the wall. In the evening they ate dinner in silence. Mother was looking somewhere in the plate. Father was barely chewing. Then everyone went to sleep, but Jacob could not sleep. That whisper appeared again, now closer, clearer. He got up and went out into the corridor. The light from the parents' bedroom came through the crack in the door. He quietly looked in. Mother and father were kneeling in front of an old book that looked like a Bible, but the cover was black and the symbols on it were unknown. They whispered, hoarsely, inaudibly, sometimes in unison. Then both took turns kissing the inverted cross hanging upside down on the wall. Jacob's heart sank. And then the father, without standing up, slowly turned his head towards him. Not just looked around, but turned his neck 180 degrees. The eyes are black, empty. The mouth twisted into a terrible smile, and a low, inhuman roar escaped from the depths of the throat. Jacob rushed to run away, ran into his room, closed the door. Mother's voice was heard from behind the door. Son, open it. You're not afraid of us, are you? The voice began to change. First soft, then rough, guttural, similar to a growl. The door trembled. It was beaten with fists, claws, something heavy. He opened the window, jumped out into the snow and fell. He turned around. In every window of the house there was a light now, and they were watching from there. Everyone looks like his parents. Dozens of faces, identical, soulless. The father was the first to jump out into the yard. On all fours, bent like an animal, and roared. Jacob ran. The forest seemed endless. The trees blackened like pillars. Ice crumbled underfoot. He ran until he saw something strange. Large pits. They have frozen bodies. Dozens. Some have not yet been completely covered with snow. On one woman's arm he saw a silver bracelet, the same one my mother always wore, with the letter J carved into it. He threw up. He ran on without looking back. When it began to dawn, he went out on a track. The snow gave way to asphalt, and in a few minutes he stopped the truck. The trucker opens the door, looked at him puzzled. Where are you from, boy? Looking like this. From Victoria Glen, Jacob barely whispered. He looked for a long time, then frowned. Son, there is no Victoria Glen there. That place burned down 15 years ago. People disappeared. They said they were found faceless in the forest. Jacob was silent. All I could think of was the smell of burnt bread. It had been 2 weeks since Jacob returned to New York, but the life that once seemed normal to him has now become like hell. He could not sleep. I woke up every night at 3:07 a.m. That's when I heard the first whisper in the house, and it's always the same. In the dark, someone can be heard walking slowly through his apartment. The mirrors were covered with moisture, and the air smelled of burnt bread. He started checking everything. Locks, doors, even the walls. But every time he looked in the mirror after a sleepless night, it seemed that someone was standing behind him. One day, unable to bear it, he decided to find out the truth. First, he called the local police in the district where the village of Victoria Glen once stood. Cherkovy answered after a long pause. Young man, this place has been closed for many years. You must be kidding me. There is not even a road there now. I was there. Last week, Jacob exclaimed. There are people there. My father, mother, they are alive. Someone on the other end sighed heavily. Listen, the policeman said quietly. If it's some kind of prank, it's not funny. Because all 27 residents died in that fire, and among them were your parents. Jacob put the phone down. His heart was pounding. His ears were ringing. No, it can't be. he whispered. He started looking for information on the internet. In the old archives of a local newspaper, I found a yellowed article from 2009. A terrible tragedy in Victoria Glen. The entire village burned down in one night. The firefighters arrived too late. No one was saved. The cause of the fire is unknown, but witnesses from nearby farms say they saw a fire that had no smoke. Experts have found strange symbols carved on the walls of some houses, similar to ancient cult signs. One of the rescuers stated that he heard screams even when everything was already ashes. His heart sank. The article included names, among them Margaret and Richard Caldwell, his parents. He sat for a long time, not breathing, staring at the screen. So who then met him there? The next day he went to the library of the old university at Albany. In the Department of Regional History, he came across the book, Places That Disappeared. In the section on Victoria Glen, it was stated that the village stood on the site of an old settlement of the 17th century where the community of settlers disappeared at one time. The only mention from the travellers of those times. They worship not God, but the shadow that comes when the light goes out. A symbol was drawn in the book nearby, an inverted cross and a circle with unknown signs. He saw the same one in his parents' bedroom. His fingers were shaking. He decided to go there again, not knowing why. Maybe to make sure that place really doesn't exist. The road was covered with snow. Of course, the bus didn't go there anymore, so he rented an old car. The GPS showed an empty place, but he knew the way. His memory did not fail him. After 3 hours of driving, the forest became thicker. Snow was pouring down the wall, and suddenly, a familiar turn, a wooden post. There used to be a Victoria Glen sign, but now it's a charred board. He came out. Silence, wind, and black earth. No house, no smoke, only ashes, ice and fire. But when he took a few steps forward, he heard a crack under his feet. The snow shifted, and a board peeked out from under it. Then another. Then the threshold. House. He was standing. Not completely, but standing. The walls are charred. The roof has collapsed. But he recognized him, recognized every detail, even an old stove. And then a voice was heard. "Son, you're back." He froze. Mother came out of the shadows, the same as then, in the same sweater. Their eyes are empty, black. Her father is behind her holding an old book. "We asked you not to go," he said dully. "Now stay with us." He took a step back, but the ground collapsed under his feet. He fell into the darkness through the smoke, through the ground, and suddenly saw that pit with bodies again. But now he himself lay among them, frozen, pale, with wide eyes, and whispers around. "You called us yourself, son. You opened the door yourself when you saw the book." A few days later, a local forest ranger found an abandoned car on the side of an old highway. The keys were inside. The door was open. An old charred book lay on the seat. On the last page, someone wrote, "Victoria Glen isn't gone. It's waiting for someone to come back." Do you want me to write part 3, where it will be revealed what kind of force lives in that village and why it brings back the dead in the form of relatives